But I'll start kicking things off. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Emily Burnham. I'm a reporter with the Bangor Daily News. And if you've never been to one of our events before, welcome. If you're an old hand at these events, welcome also. So just a few things before we get started with our panel tonight. Again, for those of you who are familiar with our events, a lot of you may be subscribers. So thank you for joining us and thank you for subscribing to the BDN. And for those of you who have joined us who are not subscribers, this is a great opportunity to check out what we have right now on the website. This has been another crazy breaking news day. And that's what we do. We are local journalism. That's our mission and what we do every day with our staff and everybody that works here. And we've been doing it for almost 30 years. So if you'd like to subscribe, you can hit up bangordailynews.com/subscribe. There's lots of different ways to do it. You can get something as simple as a monthly digital subscription all the way up to the works, print, full year of digital, all the other stuff that comes with it. So check that out if you're not already a subscriber. So our event series is sponsored by a longtime partner of ours, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. They've been an amazing partner in presenting events from all walks of life, all kinds of different people, all kinds of different topics. So thank you very much to Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, who are our tourmaline sponsor, the main reference there. So another thing is that this event is being recorded, and after the event, a few days later, we'll have a YouTube link with this, the recording of the event, as well as any information that was shared during it. If there's links, if there's data, if there's just more interesting stuff that gets referenced, that'll all get sent out in an email a little bit later. We will be having a question and answer period at the end of this event. If you have any questions for anyone, everyone, an individual, whomever, please pose them in the chat function on Zoom. You can pose them anytime you want during any point in over the next hour, and we will get to them later on in the panel. So I guess that's enough out of me. Thank you so much again for joining us, and I will hand this over to our moderator, Renee Kelly. Thank you all so much, and have a lot of fun. Ask great questions.
Thanks, Emily. I'm Renee Kelly. I am Assistant Vice President for Innovation and Economic Development at the University of Maine. The University of Maine is a catalyst for innovation and the startup community, not only in the Bangor region, but throughout the state. We really do this in sort of three primary ways. We spin off companies from the university, from the research and development that happens. We help faculty, staff, and even students while they're still in school start companies. We connect startups and much larger companies into the talent and R&D resources of the university, whether that's through internships or new hires. We really think of the university as the R&D lab for the entire state of Maine. A lot of companies can't afford to have their own R&D facilities, and they tap into those resources at the university to help them advance their companies. And then we offer a lot of entrepreneurial programs. We are involved in incubators and training and accelerators. So the university is very involved in this space, and it's one of my personal passions to work with entrepreneurs and startups. It's one of the best parts of my job. And I get to work with great entrepreneurs like the three entrepreneurs we're going to have a conversation with tonight. So I'd like them to introduce themselves and tell us all a little bit about their companies and how you got started. So Dan, why don't we start with you?
Hey, thank you so much, Renee. So first off, thank you, Bangor Daily News, for shining a little bit of spotlight on Maine entrepreneurship. And thank you, Renee, and those at Upstart Maine, the University of Maine, definitely big supporters of the Maine entrepreneurship. We want that to grow, and I'm honored to be a part of that. And so my company is called Box of Maine. We sell Maine-made products in these customized gift boxes that you can see right here in my picture. And it's a bunch of Maine. It's a one-stop shop for Maine gift giving for really any occasion. Started in my basement and was fortunate to be able to grow from there. We'll talk a little bit more about that. in the interview. But yeah, simple as just picking some Maine products and put them in a box and shipping them all over the world. So we love doing it. We love to represent Maine in the best light possible.
And Dan, where are you based now? And what's the size and scope of your company?
So now I'm in Old Town, Maine, and right on the main road. And we've been able to, hire and grow the team and start building the company. We'd like to continue to grow year over year, and we just have a little small warehouse right now, but I'm just going to keep pressing forward and hopefully we can grow into something even bigger.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Jen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Renee, and thanks, Emily and the BDN for having us. Jen Litteral, I'm with the Hound Coffee Company. We're in Bangor, Maine, and we focus really on small farm grown, small batch roasted coffee, and we really work on the Maine craftsmanship to bring an exceptional coffee experience to cafes, restaurants, businesses, and now, as of 2020, homes across the nation. We started out in 2013 with a single coffee shop in Bar Harbor, and we've now grown to over 3 licensed cafes around Maine, as well as wholesale roasting and a plant in Bangor, Maine. Our coffee roasting facility really helped us to be able to better scale and diversify our company. We have a full e-commerce shopping platform to sell all across the nation. And now we have multiple distributors for our wholesale coffee business. And we are in about 150 locations throughout Maine. They are small AG grocers, there's inns, hotels, retail stores, cafes. We're also in the Hannaford's local program. We have a cold brew coffee collaboration with Gaggins out of Brewer as well, where they make huge batches of our cold brew coffee and distribute it through Maine distributors and other distributors in Maine of kegs and barrels. So we're not talking cans, or they're talking big barrels and kegs for restaurants or cafes to put on tap and have cold brew right on tap. We're also dealers and technicians for equipment and machines, and we also started as a niche that is kind of grew that I didn't really expect it to grow, is our private label coffee. It was a thing that we really saw when we had our own cafe long ago before we roasted. There was something no one else was doing a full private label for businesses to brand, or events to brand their own coffee bags. And that's pretty much that in a nutshell. So a lot of stuff.
Awesome. And Brian.
Nice. I am kind of hungry and thirsty after this. So a little less tangible product. Course Storm. I'm the CEO of Course Storm, and we make a software product that helps people register for lifelong learning classes. So we're everything from like summer coding camps for kids to childbirth education classes to workforce retraining classes for adults, and working with a bunch of even senior colleges for more retired individuals who are looking to just learn new skills and pursue their passions. So really an incredible range of classes. We make software to make it really easy to find those classes, register, and enroll. We're located in Orono, and we're a team of 15. We started as a spinoff from my web development company that first started when we moved here to Maine about 20 years ago. And Course Storm was a spinoff. We raised our first round of investment in 2016 and have been growing ever since. We now have customers in every single state in the US, and like I said, just a really diverse group of offerings.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Well, this was positioned as an event to learn how Bangor area startups launch their businesses. So you each have touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to have a conversation with the three of you about, how did you get that spark of an idea, and how did you know it was worth something pursuing? How did you sort of test that idea to know that you were on the right track? Anyone?
Yep, for me, it was pretty easy. I mean, Maine really sells itself. I think it's pretty self-explanatory with the amount of people that come to Maine to get away, to enjoy that piece of vacation land through experiences, through visiting places like this, right? You know, the Portland Headlight, through our foods and long lasting brands, and just the people. I was just talking the other day to my father, who just moved back after being gone for 15 years. And the people here are so much nicer, and they're so supportive of what you do. And I think that's why this has all come together, is because of that very thing. We want to see each other succeed in business and grow and figure out ways to support each other. And that's why we've teamed up with Coffee Hound to collaborate together to be able to offer their product in the box of Maine.
And Dan, wasn't your dad part of the inspiration for your business? Wasn't he like asking you for Humpty Dumpty chips or something?
Yeah, it kind of came all full circle on a podcast that I just did last week. My father was an entrepreneur, and I used to go along with him when I was a little boy, and I got to see him out there with that entrepreneurial drive to succeed, to grow, to however much time you put in is what you get back, to be your own boss. And he is a big part of my story. And now he's retired, and now he goes along with me as I go and pick up blueberry jam from the coast of Maine and drive all around. So it's all coming together. And I think you need to have that passion. What drives you? Why do you get up every morning and do this? And those are things that I hold on to.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your father. It's funny. My mother's was an educator for 20 years and is now retired. And I bring her to conferences. And whenever we have a booth at a conference, the people preferentially talk with her. You know, because she can connect like educator to educator. It's really awesome. I mean, for us, for starting CoreStorm, it was a spinoff, as I said, from our existing company. We were really fortunate to work with this great organization right here in Maine called the Maine Adult Education Association. And there's like 75 programs in every small town. And we built CoreStorm really specifically to help highlight those offerings, and just knew that, you know, we were offering this great education all across the state, and it had like a promotion problem and a registration problem. So it was like getting access to those classes was incredibly difficult. Once we had sort of solved that for Maine, we realized, you know, it's not a problem unique to Maine. It really exists all across the US.
So you saw a need, right? That's what it is there's a need, and you've created something to fix that need. I feel like people have a need to experience Maine, whether it's the nostalgia of when they were, you know, from their childhood, you know, maybe you just want a gift to give somebody to cheer them up. And right, so you found a need, just like there's a need for coffee, right? Coffee's addicting. We all love coffee, so
We're just the fuel making all those dreams happen.
There you go.
So I think that's one thing that I would challenge those that are listening, maybe those that are thinking about starting their own business, is find the need first. That's a good spot to start.
So let me push you guys on that a little bit. So absolutely, you have to have a need, but how do you know you can build a business around that need? You know, and a business that's going to make money, right?
I think numbers are important, you know, and I talk about numbers more now than I used to. We knew getting into coffee, everyone drinks coffee, you know, there was a need, there was not as many places when we launched in Bar Harbor at the time. And we know that a lot of things happen over coffee, and we really wanted to connect people together, or connect over that. A lot of, you know, like your first dates and important things happen. And we loved working in the tourist areas, because people are so happy. They're on vacation. They're not like going out for their, you know, first coffee in the morning or whatever. So we really loved growing from that. And, you know, it's been a bit of a shift into the manufacturing world, and really changing from going from a B2C to a B2B, so a business to customer to a business to business kind of business. It's been a change for us to really understand how to take and transcribe what we use to kind of, you know, start with that and use those same values with what we do now. We really use the numbers. I mean, like, so half of all Americans of all ages drink 40 million cups of coffee every day. That's a lot of people. There is room for a lot of, I mean, how many microbreweries do we have in the state of Maine? I mean, I don't even know if you could number them. There are 100, 200, probably somebody has the numbers here. In the coffee world, we're talking a smattering, you know, under 20, under 30 really that are there. So there was a lot of opportunity for us to squeeze into that realm. So the numbers are important to know them, but you got the drive, you're going to find the will, you know, and that's part of it too. If the numbers aren't, you know, I mean, they're important, but you know, you need what Dan's talking about. You need that passion, because in the end, the numbers aren't going to matter if you don't have the passion and the, you know, the drive to do it and to keep going. So.
Yeah, and I bet, you know, one of the things that we talk with entrepreneurs about is you need to know those numbers. You need to know what the size of the market is and how much you can price your coffee or your registration software for. What will the market bear? What will customers be willing to pay? And those things might not always mesh up, right, the way you envision them. So you have to change and that's where that passion and drive comes in. Brian, maybe you could talk a little bit about that. I know
we're still figuring it out. You know, we've got a lot figured out, 500-600 customers and, you know, growing really well, but, you know, it's constantly adjusting on listening to the market. And we started, I mean, thanks to, I would say, University of Maine and the Innovation Engineering program, because we had plans to spend about 18 months building out the product and then starting to sell it. And we learned that might not be the best way to go. So we actually, we just like spun up in a couple of months, a really small version of the product and started selling it, you know, really early on and got our first customers. I remember when we got some of our first revenue, that's incredibly exciting. You know, someone's actually paying you for this idea. We went out for drinks, and at the first round, we spent all of the revenue of the company to date. So it was a small amount, but it was a win, you know, and I think celebrating those wins are important. So we just, you know, kept kind of iterating and building from there. And we've changed our pricing model over time to understand what's going to resonate really well with the market.
Yeah.
Finding the target market, you know, it's, for me, it's like, well, who is my target market? You know, and there's a lot of great tools and resources out there that you can use, whether it's social media or software, where you can find out, okay, who's buying box of Maine? Is it people in Maine? Why would people in Maine buy a box of Maine if they could probably gather this stuff up themselves? Is it people out of state? What state? What city? What's the demographics? I don't know if that's exactly what you were asking, but those are the things that I look at constantly. And then what Jen and Brian mentioned, you have to be ready to pivot at any point, because depending on what industry you're in, things constantly change, whether it's a pandemic or, you know, out of stock, product issues, supply. There's always going to be things that come up, and you have to be just able to be flexible and change and just keep growing and moving forward. Jen has a great story with Coffee Hound. You know, they had to completely change their whole business plan. One thing I would share is don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. I've heard this recently, and it just keeps resonating with me. We can analyze all the numbers and try to figure it all out. Yes, they have their place, but if we just keep looking at the numbers all the time and we don't actually go out and do something, get started and push and drive, then you're not gonna ever grow. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I off on that?
I really agree with that. And I think that, you know, being a small entrepreneur, small business owner, you can pivot and do things faster than a huge corporation can do. And, you know, right. I talked about this a lot last year during the pandemic, and we were pivoting. And the analogy I used was like a huge tanker in the ocean versus a small little boat. A tanker takes forever to make a turn. We were pivoting around and doing everything. We were really, you know, not just us, but small businesses and entrepreneurs could jump on the opportunities. You know, like Brian, the opportunities just came out the wazoo for you last year, you know, really for how many people needed online courses and the kinds of things that come out of that. Nobody foresaw that stuff, you know, and large companies, they plan that stuff to a T, where we have that ability to kind of pivot for it and that kind of thing, being nimble.
I think yes. one of the things that I kind of heard all of you talk about is like the data is really important, but you also have to just do something. And so it's not really an either or, it's a both. Would you agree? How do you blend those two things together?
That's a tough one. We are always finding that balance, I think, and I think understanding someone recently brought up a decision matrix for me of like, how important is this decision and like how permanent is it? If it's really important and it's permanent, you can't change it, then you have to think a long time. But if it's either not that important or you can reverse it, and there's many decisions you can reverse. I think actually deciding is better than waiting and trying to see how things play out. So making decisions quickly, I think, has been helpful for us. And I would say I have a great relationship with my co-founder, Matt James. For anyone who knows him, he's awesome, and he's our COO, and he plans and knows the numbers and knows where we're going. And I'm always pulling us to like try new things. So it's this great dynamic, I think, of having that co-founder that can keep the, sort of train on the tracks and really keep it moving forward. And then a creative person who is like exploring other tracks or other avenues. That tension has been really good.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what I'm hearing you right, Brian, is having other people to bounce ideas off of, and maybe you got someone that's really good at looking at the data and analyzing it, and then they give their feedback and advice, and you work together as a team. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you're not a numbers person. Maybe that's just not your thing. Maybe you're just a people person, and you want to get out and you want to sell stuff, or maybe you just want to be behind the scenes. I think it's building the team, finding the right people to go in business with, and using each other's strengths and weaknesses for the benefit of the business.
I resound on both of those pieces. So the co-founder of our company is Chris Keegan, which many of you know him. He is the visionary. He is the entrepreneur of the company. I was the integrator, but I didn't know the term. So last year I took on this new process that we use for our entire company, and it's called the Entrepreneur Operating System. And I use it to a T because the first time I read it, it laid out who the visionary is and who the integrator. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Chris. Oh my God, that's me. Finally, it was written out that I understood you need both of those. And we do really good with those pieces. We cross over a little, but we really have, two wheelhouses that were very different. And you really have to have both of those personalities of some sort in some fashion in your company, or you unfortunately can't succeed. If you're missing one of them, it's critical. You could be the best at implementing things, but if you can't think 10 years ahead, or that next big meeting, or those next big collaborations, you're just gonna fade off. And if you're just the visionary, you're going to keep bringing ideas that maybe can't be ground truth, or the rubber hits the road or doesn't, so you really need to have both of those. And I think that's critical what both of you are talking about.
Yeah, I've found that the most successful teams I've worked with have that dynamic, that those different kinds of skill sets, but what they have in common is that same vision, passion. Like they want to change the world by doing X, right? And they have that in common, but then they bring their different backgrounds or skill sets to bear to make that happen. How do you if you're the one person, and I know, maybe Dan, I'll pick on you to talk about this a little bit, because I know Brian started with Matt and Jen started with Chris, but what advice would you give to the solo entrepreneur who might not have that person with the other perspective on the team? Where do you find that? And
my first thought is overwhelming. It was very overwhelming, because you have all of this vision, these ideas of what you want the company, where you want the company to go, but how do you get there? Can I do it myself? How many YouTube videos can I watch? How much education can I get? And at some point you got to say, you know what, I'm maxed out. My knowledge is limited. I can't do all of this. I need help. And it's hard to get to that point. And for me, it was in the basement, 1 year of packing gift boxes, trying to build the brand. Yeah, it's just a gift box, but I want to change the world too. I want to put smiles on people's faces, but how do I reach more people? How do I get my name out there more? And I had to search around, and it was it was Upstart Maine entrepreneurship, the incubator program where I could get coaching and mentorship and guidance and opportunity and networking. All of these things that I didn't have access to was what I was missing. I could pick people's brains and ask those difficult questions and get answers back. And that's what it is. You got to ask questions, and you got to find somebody that is more knowledgeable than you to learn and grow. And so take advantage of these. There's a lot of free stuff available to people out there that want to grow their business. And so incubator program was great. And yeah, that's just a few things that on the top of my head that helped me, being by myself starting out. Now, fortunately, I do have a team, and we're able to I'm able to let go and delegate and grow from there. But it's difficult. It's challenging.
That's kind of an interesting topic to talk about. You're all sort of in that growth mode. And as an entrepreneur, right, typically the people who like to start things, they like to dig in and do them as well. How do you make that transition as you're growing to work with a team and have to, let go of some of those things? Because that's the only way you're going to continue growing.
Yeah.
Time, I think.
Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, sometimes it takes time, like I can remember starting out, we have a different, business plan. We started as a cafe, then moved into manufacturing differently, but it took years to be able to be like, okay, I can let go of this now and let go of that now. And then, it takes time and steps. Same with growth, like you talk about kind of where do you want to be? When we started and Chris is like, okay, we're going to do a cafe. And I'm like, that's it. Nothing ever again. And then it was like, okay, a second cafe. Okay, a third one. Okay, well, let's get into roasting. Okay. And it kept pushing and pushing and pushing me, but again, I wasn't that visionary entrepreneur. I'm like, one and done. That's it. Well, I don't think like that anymore. You have to be diverse. Growth is inevitable, and to plan for it as best you can, and it really took getting into, some of these other resources, which I'm sure we'll get into more detail with. I have a long list of resources all over the state, but the really being able to, it's been a different level each time of letting go, to even the point now of having a licensed location. That's a lot of letting go. And that took a lot. And the first one was like, oh, that's so hard. And then it became easier and easier. And then it allowed us to do so much more and gave us more freedom and, having that ability to let go of those things. And while there's a lot of resources in here, there are things that, and I learned this like the hard way. I never had a bookkeeper until like a year ago. It's terrible. I should have, but I learned that entrepreneurs and business owners, they hate to hire for things that they don't know how to do well. They like to hire for the positions that they understand really well, because it's easy to train it. It's easy to talk about it. It's easy to describe it. So finally got a bookkeeper. So you got to hire for the things that you're not good at, period. And if you don't have them, you got to find them,
I agree.
Yeah, I would say similar experience, Jen, and just like, some of that, like letting go, to Renee's point, I wouldn't think it would be hard for me, but it was, it's your baby, you've kind of nurtured it to a certain place. But at some point you have to just know enough that there are smarter people out there. There are people that know that position and that role a lot better than you do. So I think for me, it's like, it's always successive letting go. As you grow, you need to continue to level up, and being able to see what was on the other side of that. It wasn't just letting go of things. It was actually being able to move into a role that was much better suited for me. And I've had a recent experience where I've gotten kind of pulled back into doing things for a small period of time that I had let go of. And it made me realize, wow, I am way better at the stuff I'm doing now. Like letting go of that was so much healthier for the company. And I think that's a transition a lot of entrepreneurs go through.
Yeah. And you just made me think of a certain person, Vina Danish. I think I might have butchered her last name, but Vina, she got to see firsthand when I was in the incubator program of just trying to do it all myself. She could see how stressed out I was. And she's like, you need to let go. You need to have You need to get help with payroll and bookkeeping and accounting, right? Like, who wants to do all of that stuff? Let's pay someone else to do it so that we can focus on what we need to do, the growing the company. You're not going to be able to do it all yourself. I got some gray hairs to show for trying to do that, and I'm pretty young still. So, and we have a lot to learn, right? So there's still more that needs to be done. But thank you, Vina, for pushing me. Thank you. I think we probably all have people that we can give credit to that pushed us, or said, hey, look, maybe you need to take a step back and hire somebody or have somebody help you. So that's my piece of advice. Thank you, Vina.
It's usually uncomfortable to grow, but it usually is for the best.
Yes, growing pains, right?
And I think too, it's important to understand how all of those pieces go together. So you do need to know all of those things of how everything runs, but you don't have to do it all. And you don't want to immediately be like, oh, you do this and I never want to think about it again, because you do. You need to know how it fits in regardless, who's doing it.
So shall we talk about the good stuff now, or?
No, it's all good. It's all learning, right? I mean, I think learning is one of the key traits of any entrepreneur, is that willingness to learn. Well, you've all mentioned resources a little bit, and that sort of, the conversation was going that way. Maybe you could talk, what resources in the region or in the state or even beyond were really helpful to you at different stages of the growth of your companies.
I'll go. I guess I'd like to say, okay. We've done all the things, and if there's new things, I'll do those things too. I mean, we have really taken advantage of so many of the resources, and starting with like the innovation engineering program, we've gotten interns from the Innovate for Maine Fellows. We've tried to use as many resources from the University of Maine as we could. We've been in Scratchpad. We've had space at Covort. Just talk to anybody, found out about any resource, and taking advantage of those. That's one of the best things I would say about this region, is there are so many resources and so many people excited about helping you out in the journey. That community there has been just tremendously supportive and made a huge impact for us.
Jen or Dan?
Sure. I would really say that Maine in general and Bangor is like this rabbit hole. Once you get into it and fall down that hole, there's just like so much and you can almost bury yourself with like the next thing and the next program and the next program. And there's a certain level to going after them and being in them, and then stepping back, integrating everything, getting to the next level and the next piece, and not doing too much. I did a lot in 2020 because I had the time. I had the time to sink into it. I'd almost say I felt like I went through a mini master's program last year in business, which I hadn't done, and I did, of course, the Top Gun program last year. Was really phenomenal for us. One, because it gave us access to so many mentors while we were in the middle of pivoting, that I could say, oh my gosh, I really need this person now, because I had no idea we needed to change from this to this. And okay, now can I talk with this person and that person? In addition to learning really how to talk about the business, I knew how to talk to customers and sell coffee to people one-on-one. I didn't really know how to pitch the company to another company. And so that really helped me, in addition to many other things. So we also got certified as a 51% majority woman-owned business. And that was through the WeBank program, WBENC. There is an SBA program as well that's a free program to do it. So if you are a women entrepreneur and are interested in that, the nice thing about those programs is for the WeBank one that I went through, it again gave us a similar class series that the Top Gun program did, but it was a national level. And it gives us a national level of a network of other women entrepreneurs in all different kinds of companies. And so I can also work and sell my products within that national network as well. We did use the Innovate for Maine for having a intern in 2020 to help us do our marketing plan, and of which is always ever growing because we still haven't left the pandemic and we still don't know what things look like. We talk about the numbers here today, but they're changing, they're ever changing. And, having to constantly be, okay, where are our customers now? Are they at home? Are they back in the stores? What are they doing? We also use PTAC. So when we got certified as the 51% majority owned business, women-owned business, we started working with in Bangor, the PTAC program for government contracts. So in the government world, if you're interested in trying to get into that world of doing subcontracting, either with a government or municipality, they put contracts out for bid, and they're required to use 25% of their subcontracts need to be small businesses. So highly recommend. The PTAC group are great. They are so helpful at getting you registered with sam.gov and all of those pieces. They're endlessly helpful. We also worked a lot with expanding out. You need a network. You need people to not only network with resources of what you need to use for your own company, but to help with sales and to help with things of that. So we joined the BNI group, which is Business Networking International. And what I loved about that group is there's 52 of us, and they become our external sales team and basically brand ambassadors all over Bangor, but they're lawyers and payroll company and bookkeeping and tax accountants, of which you need all of those for your company. And you need people that you can trust to do that. So I love it because it works both ways for me to be able to use the resources that I have with that. It's really important to get out and just talking with people and, have somebody. I've also worked with small private groups of having, weekly conversations with people that are similar sized business, but might have different input of, continuing conversations and keeping to expanding your mind on the way you're doing things and stuff like that. That's pretty much, I've got a lot more, but
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh boy. Well, I don't know how to follow that up because it sounds like you've tapped every resource that is in the area, but there's still more. And that's what it comes down to is there's a lot out there, and don't get overwhelmed. Start somewhere. That's kind of the thing that I keep saying is just start somewhere. But for me, it was in the basement, as I mentioned already. And then the Upstart Center for Entrepreneurship co-working space that also had an incubator program. And pitch competitions, the big gig, little gig, big gig. That's great because you got to be able to talk about your business, and you got to be able to do it in front of people over and over and over again. You got to be confident in what you do, and you got to know the ins and outs. You got to know the numbers. You got to answer difficult questions. So that's a way to get you out of your comfort zone pretty quickly. And then obviously Innovate for Maine, working with that program with internships was nice to bring in a college student and to be able to spark their interest, and maybe they would be interested in starting a company. They get to kind of see firsthand the messiness that is running a business. It is not all clean as you may think it is. It gets really messy. So it's nice to be able to participate in that. We've worked with the University of Maine alumni and some other programs. BNI, we also are members of BNI. The networking piece is huge, like Jen mentioned. For my product, for what we do, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's nice to be able to have those other people that are supportive and they can get behind what you do, and they want to tell other people. They want to tell other people about your business. And what's better than that, to have other brand ambassadors, as you mentioned, that can say, hey, you know what? I met the owner of Box of Maine. He's a great guy, I think. He's got great products. We love the idea that he's doing. We love what he's doing. And we would love to use them, or maybe we have used them before, and word of mouth advertising. So that's all I got. I'm sure there's more too, but those are the ones that pop into my head.
I think you made a really important point, Dan, is that the the resources in the Bangor region are pretty connected. So there's really no wrong door, right? You go, you talk to one group and they'll say, oh, and you know, you should really check out this and maybe you should do that program. And here's, you know, here's something else you might want to consider. So
Yeah.
don't feel like you have to find the right resource at the right time. Just go talk to somebody and they'll help you
Score,
find
I
the
think
right
Score, I use Score as
Score.
well for legal advice. Rudman Winchell did some free legal, you know, there's always something popping up, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce. There's always something going on.
I was going to mention CEI is another great resource for mentors and funding. There's some great small seed funding that's very easy to get depending on how small size you are as a company. Maine Technology Institute, just wanted to obviously reference them. They weren't right fit for what we are as a company, but there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that can, you know, really utilize funds from them. And I just want to mention getting on listservs, you know, like sign up for every one of the things we talked about. They have like, you know, email blasts and stuff that they send out. Just sign up for them because you're not going to be able to go find stuff. It'll find you and you don't have time to keep going. So let it come to you. So sign up for as many chamber emails and whatever you can to keep up on what's happening and what things you can tap into.
That's great. One other thing I just wanted to mention about the region, and you know, Renee, you were saying this, like, it doesn't matter where you start, you'll get connected to the things. And I think Upstart Maine's doing a good job there, continuing to try to like direct people, but people know, you know, there's a nice community and they'll help to connect you into the right places. And it's at every stage of your business, really early, just like ideation and testing, getting your first customers. And then for us, I mean, not many people know there's the Bangor Angels in this area, and they're a group of individuals that are investing. They were the first money in our initial equity round. They were the first people that believed in us and said, "Yeah, we're going to invest in Core Storm." And they've been part of other rounds as well. So, you know, I think that that's a really, really important that there's a whole kind of life cycle that can be supported here.
And that's a really, you know, a shout out for the Bangor region. The Bangor Angel group is, I would say, you know, I don't have the data on this, but my hunch is for a community this size, it is one of the best angel funds directed around a community in terms of the size of, you know, the amount of money they've given, how they organize. It's really impressive a community this size has that kind of resource.
It's something, yeah. And it helped us attract other investors because we had that, you know, initial money in, and then you can just build from there. It's really great.
So we've talked a lot about some of the great things about Bangor, and please, you know, feel free to add more if you're other things but what are some of the things that you'd like to see? What can the community do? Where are there gaps? How can the community support the continued growth of your companies?
I think we're doing it right now. I think press, it needs to be put out there more that all this stuff is available, and maybe shine some more light on it, kind of like what we're doing now. So thanks. I know it's kind of cliche, but thanks Bangor Daily News. Thanks Evan Rickert for reaching out, for just shining a little bit of light. I think entrepreneurship is strong right now. People are wanting to, they're at home, they're working from home now, but I think that people would love to be able to start their own business and see where it goes.
Yeah, I'd say that as well. It's hard. Like I said, you start down the rabbit hole and you're in it. There's so much there, and it's where to find us when we're just at that level of where is the rabbit hole? I don't even know where it is. Where do I go? And this is a perfect example. That was one of the, you know, when we did the, Emily did the article, what I talked about. And this is a great spring from that from us. I feel really fortunate to be able to say, hey, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let other people, you know, help you with these other little pieces along the way, or whatever it is that you need. There's so much around the corner, and, you know, and it's just right there, you know, and how to get to them. And the more we can do it, the better. So.
Yeah, I'd say we're still a little quiet about the successes we've had here, and people are doing a good job trying to tell the stories. And you know, again, all credit to all the efforts that have been put there. But there's, you know, it's a little secret. I mean, we really are the like innovation epicenter for the state of Maine. There are more like we've got the University of Maine doing, like, pushing back the boundaries of what's known, like every day, discovering new things. And like, that there's more PhDs in this area than anywhere, so like there's just an incredible amount happening. And then people are starting companies spinning out from UMaine or being attracted to this area and starting really interesting things. And I think telling those success stories and are only going to inspire other people to kind of take that leap to, it's because it's challenging.
It is, we're sort of sometimes, the Mainer in a lot of us, it tends to be humble, right? And we don't always, tell our stories. Well, if you haven't read Emily's story, that's a great, sort of starting point, in addition to this conversation about, what's going on in the region and some of those examples. We had another question. We had another question about what percentage of your sales are outside of the state of Maine? So are you serving primarily local markets, national or global markets? Maybe a rough percentage wise, in state versus.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that because I kind of touched on it already a little bit. Yes, a large amount of our sales are from the state of Maine. Believe it or not, people are buying from Maine. They're buying a box of Maine and then they're sending it to their friends, their family, soldiers, whether it's corporate gifts, they're going out of the state. So a large portion of our sales are from Maine, but believe it or not, there's an equal amount of sales from Florida and California and some of the areas where the Mainers have gone to retire or have moved away. And then recently, to end it with this, the international market has opened up quite a bit for us because of the pandemic and people not being able to come to Maine. So we're sending Maine to them.
Jen, how about you?
I'd say we're about 80% in Maine and 20% out. I've read an interesting blurb recently that you need to saturate at least like the 200-mile radius around you, depending on what your product or your innovation that you're doing first. And once you do that, I mean, that's your easiest level, 200 miles around you, whatever you can do there, and then expand from there and grow. So we're really done that. In Bangor, we've really worked from Waterville north and west and east from that is really what we've honed in on. We are in the national market, but not to the extent that, we would like to grow some more in that realm as well. So
I would say Core Storm started there, and same thing of just saturate that local market. And as I mentioned, the partnership with Maine Adult Ed is key to early success for us. But now it's flip-flopped. It's probably 90% or more outside and maybe 10% in the state. But still, our favorite customers are the Maine customers. They're the people. So.
But I think
Mainers love to support Mainers. I mean, that's why we branded all of our coffee bags the way we did, and naming our coffees out of iconic things that sometimes visitors don't even know what the Golden Road is, kind of thing. So really trying to hit in different regions and stuff. So
yeah, I think one of the things that sets the three of you apart, and we're trying to grow more of these. Maine has been a small business state its entire history, and it has a huge percentage of businesses that are small businesses. But a lot of those businesses are focused on serving their local markets, which is great and a good thing. We need local goods in the local markets, but we also need companies like yours that are both selling locally and trying to sell goods and services outside of the state, so that brings in new revenue, if you will, to the region, new opportunities for growth. And then you hire more people, and they go out to eat in the restaurant locally and buy cars, and it's sort of this amazing symbiotic relationship that happens when companies like yours exist here too.
Absolutely, we love bringing money into the state and hiring Mainers. That's been key. Our team is all located in Maine, and some dang resilient people, so that's exactly what we need. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the Q&A. Alyssa, do you see anything that I've missed in the Q&A?
Yeah, we just had a new question pop up that said, without going into details about private businesses, because you want to protect your financials, but have any of you turned a profit? And if so, how long did it take to turn a profit? If not, when do you expect to reach profitability?
Who wants to jump into that?
Oh, I popped up. Why did I don't know why I popped up on that first. I didn't say anything at all. Yes. So yeah, profitability from the first year. I know that's not always the case, and I'm not gloating by any means, because I do understand that some companies take a lot of money to get started, and you need those initial rounds of investment and infusement of money, if you have to take out a loan. Fortunately for me, that was not the case. I was blessed to be able to get started with just bootstrapping the company, taking a little bit of money that I had and putting it in, and then just turning that profit and reinvesting it back into the business. I just got to pay myself this year, so yeah. But don't expect to pay yourself 6 figures the first, I don't know, for a while. I don't pay myself that. A very humble amount, but it does take some time. You start to see around year 2 or 3 for me, and I think that might be the case for the others, but I think around 2 or 3 is where you start to see the significant growth and revenue increasing. And yeah, I like to just keep pouring it back into the business, investing in the company, investing in the people, hiring the workforce, and pouring it back into the community around me.
That's what we did for years. So we were just turning a profit 2019 with just our cafe model. But we kept turning and getting the next upgrade of things, and the next expansion, or getting into the roasting and the next piece of thing that we were doing. So we were constantly putting the money back in and growing with that. I will say that very important for that question is all the resources that we talked about here. I am much smarter with the business plan now, and understanding the numbers, not the numbers of your marketing or your markets, which is important, but understanding what your costs are. And like, I've been through multiple courses and painful things trying to deal with the financials. And for the first time, I get them really well. And I don't have a, PhD in mathematics or whatever in financial world, but I actually finally get it. And I feel like we're going to be profitable this year. 1 year out of COVID with all the pivoting that we did, because I'm smart now and I understand how to do it well. And it's only because of all these people behind the scenes here that have helped with us, to get us into the right place, and to really, and sometimes you don't want to look at them. You're like, oh, let's look at them at the end of the year. And we don't. We work literally week by week now using that EOS model that I told you about. We have real-time numbers that we look at week by week that are tracked by SMART goals that we have set for where we want to be financially in the year. We divide it up week by week, and we gauge them and how things are doing, and implement different things based off on that. So unfortunately, if you don't like numbers, you gotta dig in, unfortunately, and love numbers.
I think just real quick, Brian, before you jump in, just the goal setting thing is great too. I think every company should do that, whether you're just starting at first, set a goal for a number that you would like to reach, and put that way you have something to push forward towards.
Mm-hmm.
I'll jump in on the profitability piece. Before we raised any funding, we had gotten CoreStorm to a profitable place, and that was a number of years ago. And then we went out to raise money in order to grow. So we are using that investment to grow quickly, much more quickly than we could grow by taking the profits and slowly reinvesting them. So that was, what I was talking about, getting funding from Bangor Angels and a whole bunch of other angel and venture capital groups. That's been critical to our success. So we're really like riding that line of using this. We see it as sort of like gas in the tank, and that's what the investment is for, to go far and go fast.
Yeah, and so as we're wrapping things up, as you can see, there's the trajectory of all of our businesses are very different. Some of us take different approaches, whether it's slow growth, slowly injecting in a little bit of money and just letting the business organically grow. Some businesses require a lot of cash to be put in at once, and maybe their goal is to grow a little bit faster. So it really depends.
And there's really no wrong answer, right? It's
Right.
about your personal goals, what's the opportunity for the company, there are a lot of different factors that then go into that.
Absolutely.
Someone asked, who should be your first 2 hires?
I guess I go back to that thing now that I understand that you have to have a visionary and you got to have an integrator. So if you're really good with vision, make sure you get somebody who knows how to integrate those visions and implement them. And then we split it across 4 centers. So we have sales and marketing, operations, and finance. And we all work across a lot of those, but only one person is actually in charge of each one. And if sometimes one person's in charge of 2 of them, and then you hire in to run those different divisions at that point. So it depends on what your strengths are. If you're normally the integrators aren't the ones starting businesses, but that's what you need. And I was just thinking of Ashley Briggs has a great business solution thing. If you are in that level, she comes in and she helps with some of those pieces. If you're the visionary, she can help be the integrator and show you what positions to kind of fill and how to do that stuff. So it's a cool resource that's in the region.
We're coming up on our end time pretty quickly. So I just wanted to, maybe what would be your 15 seconds of advice for anyone on this call or anyone who knows someone who might be starting a business?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've already said it. You got to start somewhere. That's pretty much it. Don't get stuck over analyzing everything. Yes, it's important to look at the numbers, your market, your target market, your plan, where you want the company to go, setting goals, but just get started somewhere. You're going to figure it out along the way. There's going to be hurdles and hiccups. There's going to be growing pains, but you'll never experience them unless you get started.
Jen, how about you? What advice would you give?
I say jump on in, the water's warm. You gotta leap as if the net is going to be there, and the net is here, and we just talked about all of the nets that are here, and that's really it. You got to take the leap. The rest of it's not here unless you take the jump and believe in yourself and do it.
I'd agree with that, Jen. I think, there's no set playbook. Everyone's going to follow a little bit different path, but you do have to figure it out as you go. The only other thing that I would say is as we mentioned already, there are lots of different resources around the area. There's lots of different mentors, and Maine is a really easy place, in the Bangor region especially, to get connected with others. That if you don't know how to do something, there's someone that does. Just go find that person and start asking some questions.
Yeah, and have a good support system set up. Maybe have a fallback plan. Maybe set some money aside just in case things don't work out, right? You want to be prepared. You want to plan accordingly, and yeah, just do it. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all so much. Renee, thank you for being such a fantastic host for us tonight. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, all of our guests. The insight was incredible. I knew it has me thinking for sure about some ideas I might have. But anyway, thank you again. I know we covered a lot. They covered a lot in this discussion. There's a lot of resources. This event was recorded. The discussion was recorded. You guys will be receiving an email within the next week or so with a link to this recording. Plus, I'm going to try to gather all of these resource links that everybody's mentioned and throw them in that email for you guys to reference as well. But thank you all again. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.